What is up, everybody? Welcome once again to my YouTube channel, and today let's continue with another episode of our F1 2019 career mode. And as you can see, we are at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya for the Spanish Grand Prix. We got two upgrades done in the front wing side of things. Unfortunately, this should be the Baku Grand Prix or the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, but unfortunately, as you might know if you follow me on Twitter, since changing to Windows 10, I've had issues with my recordings, so I've fortunately been able to fix all of that now, but those issues got me very hardcore lag on the recording of the Baku Grand Prix or the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, so it's just unfixable, and yeah, unfortunately that footage is lost. And it's a race I was really excited to show you guys, because it rained midway through. We were able to pit first for intermediates, and it rained quite fast. It went within a lap, it went from dries to not being able to make a corner on the dries. So I was able to pit earlier for the intermediates because I was predicting that from an online race I've had at Baku. I know it switches to intermediates quite fast, so we were able to gain some positions. We were able to get P9, and then in the last lap we got a puncture on the start-finish straight, and Sainz took P10 for me. As you can see there from the results, Bottas won and Sainz took P10 from us, just like Bottas got P2 from the Williams of Stroll back in 2017, I believe. So yeah, it was the same kind of thing. We had a puncture on the start-finish straight, and Sainz just gets past us to claim the last of the points paying position. So I was really happy with that race. It was a really fun one. Unfortunately, I can't show it to you guys.
It's practice time here at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya as we head out for the Spanish Grand Prix. Soon enough, the teams will be heading onto the track for what will no doubt be a really interesting day of practice.
Starting with our performance during our practice sessions and practice programs, you guys can say we finally did it. We finally got purple in the qualifying simulation. I do have a bit more confidence in the car around here. The upgrades are starting to work, and I also feel more comfortable on this track overall as compared to Bahrain and China, so that might also be an influencing factor, but I am happy with our performance, and we claimed the full points available, so that's nice. We are going to have a good base to continue investing on the car and hopefully get to the front of the pack sooner rather than later.
You join us today at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya for what's bound to be a really hectic qualifying as the teams compete to set the best lap times.
So, jumping to qualifying, this is the last few corners of my first qualifying attempt. During the practice, I do run practice with the line just to get acclimatized back to the track and try to memorize all the braking spots. I do run qualifying and the race without the racing line. But you can see 120.7 in practice. I did a 120 flat. That's what got me the purple results. So this time around I'm going to try to improve, of course, and as you can see, as we approach turn 10 there, we actually are going to claim quite a bit of time. We do have a mistake, but we get a better exit and we gain at least 3 tenths. So we actually get out of turn 12 almost 6 tenths quicker, but yeah, we are also going to have a bit of a mistake coming out of this last chicane. We are a bit too slow coming onto the power. We also start derating, and yeah, the time just starts dropping. Unfortunately, we only have a 3-tenth improvement, which is better than nothing, but it doesn't get us as high as I was expecting. Nonetheless, one of our best qualifying performances, the best I think if you discount Australia. We get P17 on the board as Bottas proceeds to Q2 as the leader. Verstappen, he actually took a bit of slipstream from me. That might have helped him split the Mercedes there. The Ferrari is just a step behind, as they are both actually very close to each other, exactly 20 thousandths of a second separating them, I believe. But nonetheless, Russell, Stroll, Grosjean, myself and Raikkonen, we were the ones eliminated in Q1, and well, they just have to deal with it and hopefully get a better result on the race. We are going to get back to our motorhome, and of course we are going to get compared to our rivals. We are still smashing Russell, but getting smashed by Butler. Probably should have waited to start a rivalry with him, but it is what it is. And we are going to collect some points, of course, good sum of points as well from qualifying, and we do have almost 1200 points. So if we can get a good sum of points during the race itself, we might be able to get another discount on our aerodynamic improvements, which would be rather helpful. You can see in the messages it's going to be a dry race, it's going to be cloudy towards the end, but nothing worrisome, and we are going to be running the normal one-stop strategy of softs to medium tires unless something happens. So let's see how it goes. We might be able to get a few positions into turn 1 as we usually do. Let's see how it goes as we start the Spanish Grand Prix.
Good afternoon from a very familiar setting. It's race day here in Spain, and with everything still to play for in the championship battle, there's no room for mistakes in a Grand Prix that's well known for creating them. The Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, a track that will certainly force the drivers to push themselves. It consists of a very impressive main straight going into turn 1. It's a straight that also offers a DRS zone, so it's likely to be a hot spot for overtakes. A warm welcome to Anthony Davidson, who's beside me in the commentary box today. That was a great podium in the last race, so can they keep that momentum going this weekend?
There are never any guarantees in this business, but certainly the performance last time out would have boosted their confidence coming into this one.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The fence starts from pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Vettel, Charles Leclerc, and Gasly, Magnussen, Sainz, Perez, and Nico Hülkenberg, Norris, Ricciardo, Lucas Faber, and Albon, Butler, Raikkonen, the rookie, and Roman Grosjean. Stroll and George Russell ends our grid lineup. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
You qualified higher than we were expecting, so see if you can keep this position in the race.
We did qualify higher than expected, as in our contract our target is to qualify and finish the race in 19th, so 17th is nice, and we also beat our teammate, which is required of the team. But yeah, it's going to be a long straight into turn 1 from where we are standing on the grid, and if we do get wheel spin on the start, it might really compromise us. It's a very long run into turn 1, so hopefully we can nail the start. I'm not great at the starts in these F1 cars in this game. Let's see what happens though. So we're going to get started with it as we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Lights out, and away we go for the Spanish Grand Prix. We have a bit of wheel spin in third gear there, bogged down a little bit, and Grosjean is going to actually pull alongside us as we approach turn 1. Raikkonen with an immense start is going to get himself past Butler and alongside Albon. We tried to do the same, but Grosjean was there. We had to respect the space we have to give to him. We can't work 3 wide through turn number 1, even though around the outside of turn 3 we do get a higher average speed, and Butler there goes early on the brakes. Fortunately I had cleared Grosjean, otherwise it could have been a nasty clip on the back of that Toro Rosso. Looking further up the order, as you can see, there's a battle developing between the Alfa Romeo of Weber and the McLaren of Lando. Norris, I believe that is. You can see the 70 getting a bit squeezed on the outside at the exit of the chicane of turn 7 and 8. They do compromise each other's exits off turn 9. Ricciardo might try to capitalize on that one. He moves to the inside, but he doesn't move enough. And there is contact between the front wing of Ricciardo and the rear wheel of the Alfa Romeo there. And as you can see, there was a bit of carbon fiber flying. Could have hit the car of Raikkonen, who's following in P13 at the moment, but this is really going to compromise the race of the Australian. While that was happening, we're also getting ourselves a good view of the battle between Grosjean and Albon. As you can see, Grosjean, he dive bombed everyone into turn number 4, so he was able to claim 2 positions there. We are going to try to get some of our own as we go on the inside of Butler, and now it's going to be a traction battle coming out of turn number 10. He bangs us a little bit, even though we got quite aggressively on the curb of turn 11. Butler still stuck a nose in there, and they had to give him the space. He still tries to go for it into turn 14 there, but we managed to keep it clean, and we managed to climb up to P17. So a nice start from us, and now coming out of the last corner, Albon and the others do pull away quite significantly. I'm using a time trial setup with a few changes, but I didn't change the wings, and I do have a more powerful power units than these Toro Rossos, so maybe the AI just gets OP traction, I don't know, but I thought I was running the lowest set of wings possible, considering I'm on a time trial setup. So yeah, it's rather weird, not sure what that was about, nonetheless we have to work with it. Moving on to the beginning of lap number 3 for the leaders. This is the end of lap number 2 for Grosjean and Ricciardo, who's now lost immense amount of time to the guys 12th and up. As you can see, it's going to be Kimi Räikkönen pulling alongside, and it's going to approach the outside of turn number 1, and what a beautiful maneuver there as the Finn gets past Ricciardo. And now you can see how much Ricciardo is understeering, how much is affecting him, that damage on the front wing. Grosjean says thank you very much, and we have Albon trying to pounce on him, taking advantage of the vulnerable position that the Australian is in at the moment. Ricciardo still tries to not give it up, but Albon just gets superior traction out of turn 5 and claims P15 at his own. Unfortunately, we weren't close enough to get a place of our own. We are going to try, we do need to get overtaken past Ricciardo if we want to at least get a bit of breathing room from Butler. As you can see, he's chomping at the bits to overtake us as we begin lap number 4, and Romain Grosjean is quick but not quick enough to get past the 7 of the Alfa Romeo, and unfortunately for all the guys behind, they can't also overtake the Frenchman as he's benefiting from DRS. So Albon, looks like Albon actually has dropped out a little bit. A couple of car lengths has lost through the last lap, so it might be a challenge for him to keep up with those guys. As you can see, Ricciardo is still holding us up, getting out of the last corner in the previous lap. I wasn't able to overtake him, so yeah, we do need to get a better lap this time around. Of course, it's going to be easier from the fact that he's still sustaining heavy damage on that right side of the front wing. As you can see through these camera angles, come out of turn number 9, we are going to get DRS. Will this be it? We're getting closer, but not close enough as we approach the braking zone of turn number 10. Brakes glowing red on the Renault there. And as you can see, Albon has already pulled considerably away from the Renault, so it's going to be a struggle for us. We have to overtake him and get past him cleanly, and hope that he's able to frustrate in some way the efforts of Butler to get past him, so that we can get a bit of a breathing room. Let's see how it goes as we go on board with the British driver. He's getting the double slipstream from me and Ricciardo. We do get DRS, the Toro Rosso gets DRS, the Renault does not, but the Renault is able to stick it alongside him, but not for long. He tried to hold on to the inside, but he just doesn't have enough front wing downforce, and is going to have to slow down once again. And we see the Canadian had to lift off a lot to avoid the back of the Renault, and Russell unfortunately was too far back to capitalize on that one. He's going to have to stay put in last place for the time being. Jumping to the beginning of lap number 6, we have Grosjean, who finally looks like he has a run at the Finn, and is going to pull away the move. Ooh, a bit of a lockup contact there, caused by the lockup of Kimi Räikkönen there, and Grosjean doesn't find the momentum required to go around the outside of turn 3 and get the move done. So he's going to have to settle in on his place. I believe it is 14th at this point. He's going to have to settle in with that for the time being and wait for another opportunity next lap. There's a bit of a gap also forming from those 3 guys to Butler and myself. As you can see, Butler in the meantime has overtaken us, and the Canadian Lance Stroll has gotten past Ricciardo, so the only driver who's yet to pass him is our own teammate George Russell. So he's going to have to wait a little bit more to get his chance to overtake the Australian as we begin lap number 7 with a chase between, I believe that is the, yes, it is the 70 of the young German of our teammate in Formula 2 as he's going to get himself the inside of turn number 2, the outside of turn number 3. Lando Norris still tries to hang it on the inside, but the outside maneuver, at least from the AI, looks like it's the move to go to as you carry a bit more speed on the outside, and he manages to get himself alongside into turn 4. Now let's see, into turn 5 he's going to get rewarded with the inside approach, but Norris is no slouch. He's going to keep himself alongside. It's going to be a traction battle now as they approach the chicane of turn 7 and 8. He's forced onto the grass, the British driver there a little bit, but he's going to give back the favor and force the German onto the grass coming out of the chicane into turn 9. This could end up in tears, but he actually does not. Butler is not Butler, but Weber is coming back at the British driver. Puffs of smoke coming from the front brakes as he overcooks the brakes, the McLaren driver, and it's going to be another traction battle into turns 11 and 12. Norris is still hanging on to the inside, but nonetheless there is contact between the two of them, and Weber manages to carry more speed and gets the move done. Up to P11 goes the Alfa Romeo, but that could be all in vain as of course they just got through the DRS detection zone, and the British driver does have the DRS to utilize as he's coming into turn number 1. You can see him approaching. The closing speed is quite fast, or quite big, as he's getting himself onto the braking zone, and he locks up. The British driver Lando Norris locks up, does a mistake, especially after he did so well to defend from the German. When he finally could retake 11th place, he bottled it, locks up, and is going to have to stay put in P12 for the time being. Jumping now to a little bit later on, looks like this is Kevin Magnussen, I would say, with Sainz ahead of him. He's getting the DRS from the Spaniard. He's not as quick as the McLaren, and unfortunately the German Nico Hülkenberg can't get past the Haas at the moment, so he's going to have to wait his time. He knows he's quicker, but looks like the Haas is struggling to keep up the pace of the McLaren, so maybe in a later lap the Haas will not have the right to DRS, and then the Renault will be able to pounce on him and claim what I believe to be P8 at the moment, as of course we have the top 6, the Red Bulls, the Ferraris and the Mercedes. Then best of the rest has been Carlos Sainz, followed by the Haas, and then the Renault and the Racing Point of Sergio Perez. And then we have in P11 the youngster Norris, followed by another rookie in Weber, moving to the beginning of lap 10. And finally, as you can see, the Haas doesn't have the right to DRS and is going to get pounced on not only by the German but also by the Mexican. But this time around the number 20 is not going to make it that easy. He's going to force the Mexican to the inside of turn number 3, and we've seen that that move works well for the AI. The number 20 K-Mag is going to get himself around the outside. He keeps himself in contention there as they approach turn number 4. He's still keeping the Mexican honest, forcing him to give the space. He's going to get himself the inside brake slightly later than the Mexican as well. It's going to be a traction battle now, and it looks like Perez did get slightly better exit. He also has the Mercedes power unit, which outputs a little bit more horsepower than the Ferrari, at least in the game, and the number 11 does get up to P9, and the Dane has to be content with P10 for the time being. As you can see on the background, just coming out of turn 9, the looming pair of Lando Norris and Weber. So those two are going to also try to get their chances of at a top 10 finish in case those two battle for too long. Jumping to lap 11, as you can see, we did gain a bit of time on the Canadian as he was held up behind Ricciardo, but since then I felt a bit lost, I have to admit. When I don't have any cars ahead of me when racing without the racing line, I do start making mistakes. I don't have the reference of the cars ahead of me. It's much easier for me to chase the car ahead than to be the one chased, and as you can see, big mistake there into turn 10 allows the Canadian to get really close to us. It's going to put up the pressure, especially heading into turn 1 as we go wide once again into turn number 12. And unfortunately for us, it's going to be chomping at the bits to overtake us. It does have a similar power unit, but of course that car has better aerodynamics and the chassis, so coming out of the last corner is just going to press the DRS button and get an easy maneuver done.
We're approaching the pit window. You'll be on the hards.
As you can see, we also got information from Jeff that we are getting close to our pit window. It starts at lap 14, so it's going to be... We'll see if we can extend that a little bit. Also depends if Stroll pits or not. but for now you can see, wow, that's a big amount of understeer there. I wasn't expecting to have that much understeer, but because I wasn't following anyone for a while, so Lance Stroll is causing a bit of the dirty air effect on my front wing. It doesn't get as much effectiveness, so unfortunately I have to be a bit more careful, but nonetheless we showed that we can keep up with the racing points driven by the Canadian at China. Is going to try to beat us this time around. Let's see how it goes as Bottas gets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Bottas overtook Hamilton in the previous lap. As you can see, Bottas coming to the pits first. Is the first of the leaders to get to the pits, going to switch for a set of the white-walled hard tires. The Monegasque is going to do the same. He pitted from P5 and from P6. Who holds him up actually is Gasly. Gasly held up the Monegasque, so that's going to cost him a little bit, as we have, that is Sainz, I believe, from 7th place coming into the pits for a set of hard tires. Is going to get followed by the Renault of Hülkenberg and the Racing Points of Perez, as well as the Haas of Magnussen. So that group, that group of 4 cars all came into the pits, and they all rejoined right behind that little battle we have between ourselves and the Canadian Lance Stroll. As you can see, the number 20 did lose out a little bit as he comes out of the pits just ahead of Russell, who in the meantime has overtaken Ricciardo, who hasn't pitted yet. As you can see, he slots right ahead of Butler, who comes out of the pits in last place. In the following lap, of course, the other teammates are coming to the pits. As you can see, it was the 44. Also, Verstappen comes out from P4 into the pits, maintains himself behind P3 of Sebastian Vettel. As you can see, on the left hand side there is the Mercedes of the Finn, Valtteri Bottas, getting himself up to P1. He did get the undercut, so he's going to get a good lead on Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton, who was keeping up with the Finn, but he really mismanaged his ERS, wasn't able to overtake using ERS, DRS and the slipstream, and he really ended up losing out the pace because he depleted his battery, and since then he's just pulled away the Finn and is maintaining a very healthy lead at these points. Looking now to the McLaren of Norris, you can see he's giving himself also a slight lead on his fellow rival Weber, as we're getting ourselves to the pits at the end of lap 15, beginning of lap 16, and we actually do get a better pit stop than Lance Stroll, which forces us to slow down. And unfortunately, we have to push a little bit to get up to him. Fortunately for us, we are able to brake later, and we close the gap right up. Also, one of the Toro Rossos there adds not the greatest pit stop, it looks like. Maybe had to replace his front wing, but there it developed a very big gap between the Toro Rossos, as you can see on the minimap. Then you have Grosjean still following the Alfa Romeo of Kimi Raikkonen as the rear slips out from under us there. These tires are still cold, so we have to be mindful of that one. Also, a slight lockup on our front left, but we do need to keep ourselves consistent. We know we can keep up with Bottas, as not Bottas, but Perez. We can keep up with, not Perez, Stroll. We can keep up with the Canadian, and jumping to lap number 20, we jump from one racing point to the other as Perez is going to have DRS and is going to challenge the German into turn number 1. Let's see, will the Renault be able to put up a fight? Yes, he does. Hangs the inside of turn 1, and now he's going to get the inside of turn 3 as well, even though the AI has been able to get the move done around the outside of turn number 3, but this time around the speed difference is enough, and Perez actually comes up with the move and gets himself up to P8, I believe. Jumping to lap 24, these two, not before the pit stop, but since the pit stop, these two, Vettel and Verstappen, have been coming back and forth, trading positions for P4 and P3, basically since the first lap of their hard tire stint. Oh, and look at that! There's an engine blowout for the Monegasque. Charles Leclerc is out of this Grand Prix. That's really going to benefit Mercedes in terms of the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship, especially as they are 1-2, and they also took the lead at the end of the Baku Grand Prix. So unfortunately, the Ferraris won't be able to do as much damage control as they want at this race. Looks like we are finally fed up of sticking ourselves behind the Big Panther. We are actually going to pull off alongside him, and we are going to, even before the braking zone, get ourselves ahead, and we are going to get ourselves P16. So of course we are going to get promoted not only the place for overtaking the Canadian, but also the place from the retirement of Leclerc. We jump to the beginning of lap 25, and Verstappen this time around has no answer to the DRS attack of Sebastian Vettel as the Ferrari makes his way back up to P3. But this has been interesting to watch as both of them do try to manage their resources the best they can. As you can see, Verstappen did use, not Verstappen, but Vettel did use a large amount of his battery to keep up or to overtake Verstappen. So Verstappen might have a bit of an advantage there. Getting back to our own board as we begin lap number 25, Stroll gets back past us. So I wasn't too fussed about this because by now I know that I can keep up with Stroll, and I've also tried and was able to overtake the Canadian. So I now know that I can keep up with him and also overtake him, so I'm just going to sit back and wait for the last lap to strike. As you can see on the minimap, Sebastian Vettel takes the fastest lap right before or right after Bottas. As you can see on the minimap, the race leader is getting himself to the last place. Ricciardo is going to lap him, and also through turn 1 there goes Vettel, still ahead of Verstappen and the lonely Gasly in P5. Are going to follow us around the lap. As you guys can see how I'm managing my resources to keep up with Lance Stroll as we just get through the end of sector number 2 and into turn number 10. Now through the twisty sector 3, I don't need to run ERS, especially as that curb of turn 11 can really catch you out if you are putting too much horsepower through the engine and to the Pirellis. They might not handle it if you go too aggressively over that curb. And of course we turn up the boosters coming out of the last corner of the Spanish layout, but this time around Stroll did get a better exit, so we are forced to go to mode 3 on both of our resources. But of course the slipstream and DRS does the rest for half of the straight, and we can still maintain ourselves within a second of him. So Bottas answers back to Vettel with the new fastest lap. Bottas really wants the full 26 points, so it's actually very nice to see Bottas going aggressive. He's really outpacing Hamilton at this point. He's the fastest car on the track, and as you can see, the Renault of Ricciardo has been lapped by the Mercedes. So we still have a Russell between ourselves and the leader, but he is coming in fast as we have 6 laps to go, I believe, or 7 laps to go until the end of the race. We do skip ahead to lap number 31 as we have a battle with the RS. The German of the Renault catches up and overtakes Sergio Perez for that P7, as now Sainz of course got promoted to P6 with the retirement of Leclerc, and now the German gets up to P6. P7 is Perez, P8 is Kevin Magnussen, and in P9 we have Butler. Butler has been able to get past Norris and bridge the gap all the way up to get himself a chance of points. So very nicely done for the German driver. Very good race from him as we're getting started now with lap number 32. We are going to get ourselves alongside Stroll, but we aren't actually going to pull the trigger on him, just keeping him honest, just making sure he can still overtake him on the straight. But if you look at the minimap, there's Bottas right behind us. Bottas has caught up to us, and this might throw a spanner in the works as we get understeer once again by sitting too close to Stroll through turn 3. Blue flags are applied, and we are going to have an opportunity to maybe let Bottas through and get past Stroll when Stroll pulls over to let the Finn pass. I'm a bit indecisive at this point. That actually threw me off and I lost a couple car lengths to the Canadian. But as you can see, Bottas is actually going to have a much better exit than me out of turn 9, and that just made the decision for me. He's just going to get past. I'm just going to brake earlier, let him through, and we do have one more lap to go. At least that's what I was thinking. I completely forgot that if Valtteri Bottas overtakes me to lap me, this is the last lap of the Grand Prix. Fortunately for us, Stroll does go slow through turn 13 there, and we actually get ourselves alongside him. We could have gotten a harder fight, we could have pounced on this switchback opportunity, but I didn't, because I was convinced that we had another lap. Unfortunately we don't, and this is it. We can't get past Stroll.
Thank you for all your hard work out there. That was a strong drive and a good finish. Well done.
The Mercedes team pulled out a fantastic performance today. They should be proud. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on the track was today: speed. I know it sounds like an obvious thing to say, Crofty, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot. A well-earned victory for Mercedes.
There you have it, 1-2 for Mercedes, with Valtteri Bottas taking the top step. Sebastian Vettel unfortunately loses out on the podium. It is the young Dutchman to get himself up on the last step, and as you can see, disastrous day for the Ferrari team, and I'm still not over it. I really thought that I was going to have another lap.
And now let's take a look at the drivers' standings. Well, the gap at the top of the championship has been cut down after a difficult race today for our championship leader. Now, let's discuss, Ant. Who would you say is a contender for driver of the day?
Kimi Raikkonen is my standout today. Nothing you could construe as showboating, just an incredibly consistent performance out on track.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. There was also a strong showing from the McLaren team today as they make their way up the standings. I'm equal parts exhausted and elated with this weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for the next one.
Well, coming back home, we smashed Russell once again, but we don't get Butlers. Of course, he finished ahead of us. We are still losing to him 9-18. He has double the points we've scored so far, which is unfortunate. But we do have the opportunity of clinching the rivalry with Russell at Monaco, so we are going to have a good sum of points from there as well. So we're going to get also some resource points from this race, and we are actually going to get almost 1600 points, which is finally going to allow us to get another discount to get another upgrade in terms of the prices of the parts. We have 4 messages there, and we do have invitations for the historic events. I'm not really interested in them, to be honest. I've done loads of them already in my spare time, so I'm not really interested in doing them anymore. So jumping to the research and development, we are going to get that aerodynamic part minor upgrade. Costs 400 points, now it costs 361, and the major costs 670. For comparison, a minor in the chassis department costs 500 points. So it is a very big help in terms of our upgrades, especially as after Monaco. Maybe I should have spent those points upgrading the aerodynamics for Monaco, but I do think that especially as we are going to get completed the EMA extra targets and we are going to get wrapped up in our rivalry with Russell, we are going to get a big amount of points and we can have a big bunch of upgrades for the Canadian Grand Prix. Yes, this is it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like button. If you did not, the dislike button is as always right beside it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. Hit the bell icon for any notifications of whenever you are about to start a live stream or to post a video. Hope to see you guys next time, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.